Okay guys, what is up? It's me, Vole, and welcome back to a brand new LEGO video where we're going to be having a look at this fully automatic LEGO machine pistol. Enjoy. So let's give an overview for this LEGO gun. It is a fully automatic rubber band machine pistol that can fire any sort of rubber band that's long enough, but the recommended one is this one. And loading it is very simple. This gun has a spindle style loading system. So what you would do is you'd wrap your rubber band round one keg of the spindle, then you'd load it up onto the tip of the gun. Then you would miss one part, then load it on the other. Then you would repeat this process until you have loaded 4 or 5 rounds into the LEGO gun. Like so. Of course, if you use thinner rubber bands, you might get away with loading 6, 7 or even 8 rounds into the rubber band gun, but because I'm using these strong ass thick rubber bands, I get the luxury of only loading 5. So once you're fully loaded with this LEGO gun, all you need to do is, if you want to, you don't have to, you can load a false magazine into the machine pistol. You take your aim, then you fire. Oh yeah. Now without further ado, it's time to go on to the range test. So here we are with the range test, and what we're going to do is we're going to shoot 4 rounds out of this machine pistol. After that, we're going to analyse the rounds and we're going to see how far this gun is able to shoot. So, wish me luck. Test number 1. Test number 2. Test number 3. And test number 4. Now that was the range test. Now it's time to check the rounds to see how far this gun is able to shoot its projectile. So now it is time to analyse the results of the range test. Now, the gun had a pretty respectable range. Now our first test came in at 4 meters. The next one along came in at 4.3. Going further, we hit 4.5, and then going in at just around 4.65 is our furthest shooting rubber band projectile. This gun can shoot far and perform consistently, as we've seen in our range test. However, can this gun hit the target? It's time to find out very shortly. But before we do that, I would like to talk about this gun in detail.
This is a fully automatic LEGO machine pistol. It shoots rubber bands, and it also takes in a false LEGO magazine. For ease of use, this gun implements a strong and comfortable pistol grip. The pistol grip uses slopes and inverted slopes to support the ergonomics. For trigger discipline, there is a strong trigger guard. Similarly to our other LEGO guns, the top is polished off with flat LEGO base plates. This allows the rubber band to glide out smoothly without any issues. The rubber bands are loaded into the gun using a standard spindle mechanism. You would load a rubber band from one end all the way down to the other end, like so. And this is the result. The mechanism of a Lego rubber band gun. This gun's mechanism has two jobs. One, to fire the rubber bands, and two, to slow down the rate of fire to ensure that the gun is still controllable.
So, because this Lego gun is in fully automatic, it has to implement a completely different firing mechanism than our guns that shoot in semi-automatic. Unless you're using blowback, you have to come up with a different releasing mechanism, otherwise you're going to have the case where your gun shoots pretty much all the rubber bands at once. So I decided to experiment with different gears and gear ratios.
This part of the gear mechanism concerns the trigger, the deceleration mechanism, and the first part of the release system. So, when you pull the trigger, the gears are able to turn forward. This will release the rubber band guns, firing them at a decent range until the user chooses to cease the fire by releasing the trigger. As you can see, the trigger will prevent any more rounds from firing when released. As you can see using this simple technique part here. Like that. Now, the reason why there are gears in front of this release system is because you need to be able to decelerate the gun so that the weapon is controllable. Like so. Now, from face value, it may seem as if the rubber band and the magazine release doesn't use any rubber band to provide the tension, but when you take a deeper look inside the gun, you'll be able to notice the gun's tension system. This is where the rubber bands are housed, allowing for ease of use and presentability of the Lego gun. The rubber bands for both the trigger and the magazine release are kept here, and they are effective. The only disadvantage to this is that when the gun's rubber bands do break, you'll have to go into the gun just to replace them. However, due to the durability, you won't need to be doing this often. Speaking of the magazine release, it is highly effective. All you need to do is put the magazine in. What you may notice is the magazine is kept in by this Lego part and this Lego Technic piece. When you pull the lever in on the magazine release, you are able to remove the magazine from the gun, like so. Now, besides the trigger, the releasing system is the part of the mechanism that actually fires the rubber band gun. I have briefly mentioned the releasing system when talking about this area, because when you release the trigger, this gear is able to spin. When this happens, you may be able to notice that the big ass gear at the back, which is connected to the spindle which fires the rubber bands, is also spinning in the same direction. This is achieved by using a couple of extra gears. Now, I could always set up the mechanism so we use this part and then put one of these gears inside the Lego rubber band gun, but the usability is pretty low when you use this system. Instead, I prefer a spindle style loading mechanism. Therefore, we had to do something a little different to be able to achieve it. Hence, the external gears on the outside. What we've done here, you see the cream gear and the black gear being put together like so. Then what we've done is we've attached that black gear to a couple of thin black gears on the outside. These two black gears are thus connected to this main gear, of which this gear will then turn the spindle and fire the rubber bands in a fast yet controllable fire rate.
Now, I have had a small collection of people asking for some tutorials, and of course our last tutorial on how to build our Lego blowback pistol was a massive hit. It's 2,500 views with 39 likes, 11 dislikes, which is a shame, but AO. And I kind of want you guys to experience the mechanism for yourself, get hands-on experience, because I don't think it's doing justice to talk about how well it works speaking to you on the camera. Even though you can get a pretty good illustration, I kind of want you to try it for yourself, maybe put it into your own gun. So what I'll do is I'll either upload instructions for the main gun itself, including the magazine release, the grip, or just post a mechanism video where I show you a tutorial for that. So please watch this space pretty soon for that. Obviously I'm going to do some other accurate and powerful Lego gun videos before I get onto that. And of course some people have wanted me to do a instructional video on our mini Lego rubber band pistol. That will come much later.
Now let's return back to talking about the details of our Lego gun. So as you may have noticed, this trigger will only go so far forward and so far backwards. This is because of these Lego Technic pieces, and what they are supposed to do is control the trigger and where it can go. This means that the trigger will only pull so far in, meaning that you're not wasting time and costing controllability by pulling the trigger fully. Another notable thing about this Lego gun is the basic iron sights. They are serviceable, but they don't do too much of a brilliant job. The iron sights are pretty simple, consisting of these two cheese wedges, this flat Lego base plate, of course the smooth base plate parts here, and of course this central one stud base plate with a blue stud on top. And finally, the rubber bands are loaded onto this hook, and this hook is pretty simple. It uses this cross-section Technic connector with these two cylindrical Lego Technic bricks. Inserting this into the gun is very simple. You may be able to notice this cross connector shaped Lego Technic brick. All you need to do is insert the hook into the Lego gun, like so. You know what? It kind of does look like a bowl. Not too much like it, but hey, if it makes a gun look slightly more awesome, then I'm all for it.
Now, of course, it's clear to see that I think very highly of this fully automatic machine pistol. And of course, it's got so many good things going for it. And of course, sadly, it will have very few disappointments. Is accuracy one of them? Well, it's time to find that out. It's now time to do the accuracy test. Let's go. So here we are with the accuracy test, and because we're dealing with a fully automatic Lego gun, we're going to be doing things slightly differently. So, first of all, we're going to do the classic accuracy test, where we pit our rubber bands from this gun against those 3 targets. After that, we'll set up a 4th test. We'll load 4 more rubber bands into this Lego gun. Then what we'll do is we'll set 4 targets closer together and we'll see if we can sweep it in fully automatic. So, can this gun hit the targets? Now it's time to find out. Okay. Semi-rested position, semi-auto-ish. Test 1. Pass. Test 2. Pass. And test number 3. Pass. And test number 4. 3 out of 4 pass. 1 fail. Now, the Lego gun did really well in the accuracy test, however, it didn't do perfectly. Therefore, we'll have to test this gun with the precision test to see what may have caused the little mishap. Now, was it my fault? Was it my hand? Was I able to sweep in the fully automatic? Or did the inaccuracy lie within the gun? There'll be time to find that out shortly, but before we do that, allow me to talk you through my general opinion on the gun. Starting on with the good things, where can we start? The gun works really well. You load in 4 rounds, you'll get 4 rounds out of it. You'll get 4 rounds of good, accurate fire. There's no rounds that go off on the sides, and it rarely misfires. And the only reason why it misfires is because the gear's been used quite a lot. So as terms of the Lego gun goes, it's really reliable. As for the mechanism, it's really effective. Fully automatic goes at such a good fire rate, however, I can still control it. Allow me to demonstrate. So all I need to do is get my 4 rounds into the gun. Another good thing is that the gun uses a spindle, which I find a really good feature, which helps with the ease of loading. Because all I need to do is load it on one, then skip the other, and also, because the tuft of the spindle is larger, you have more margin for error when loading. Unlike with the gear one, where when you're not precise with it, it can generally snap off the rubber band gun and fire when it shouldn't. But with this, it's generally reliable, it doesn't misfire, it doesn't fire too early. Now, just to demonstrate, I can fire a couple of rounds here, and then I've got 1 more round in the gun, I can fire that off with ease. Controlling is very simple. All you have to do is when your finger goes off the trigger, the gun stops firing. It's simple to use and simple to control. And of course, most things on this gun work absolutely seamlessly. So the loading mechanism and the firing mechanism works absolutely beautifully when it wants to. The trigger works really well when the rubber band is intact. And of course, oh yeah, the magazine works well as well. And I know this is a pointless feature, but I absolutely love how this magazine works. It just clips in. You can't really get it out until you push onto that magazine release and release it like so. Another really good feature about this Lego gun is the ergonomics. It is so comfortable to hold. Like, all I have to do is put it in my hand and you can barely notice that it's Lego. Okay, maybe you get the studs, but it feels like it was made with proper materials when you hold the gun. That's, of course, until you open your eyes and see that it is made out of Lego, but the grip is so fucking good and it works really well. And it really helps with using the trigger and using everything else, because you can really put a strong grip on that gun without hurting your hand, and you can control that aim really well with this grip. The grip angle is brilliant. The actual grip shape is absolutely fantastic. The use of the slopes is brilliant. And the fact that it leads up to the trigger guard is also a really nice feature. The only little disappointment is the trigger is kind of a distance away from that Lego gun's grip. And like sometimes it can be quite an issue to reach that trigger. I have had to use a second hand to kind of pull it. And you shouldn't really be doing that, especially with a full auto. Although, advantage of that being, it kind of makes you want to use two hands to hold the gun, which is probably a good idea with a fully automatic Lego pistol. And we go on to the bad about this Lego gun. This Lego gun is so brilliant, but of course, it ain't perfect. First thing, if the gears are clogged in like this, it's so strenuous. I've had issues where the gun has misfired purely because the gears were bent out of shape, and it really is just a hassle to use. It's like closed in, and you're like, oh, and it really angers you when you use it because you want to get out to firing and you can't figure out what's wrong with it because you look inside the mechanism, you go in like that, and you're thinking, oh, everything else works really fine, and the trigger's intact, everything's intact. And then you go to the gear, and then you find the problem. It's not good at all. Now, I suppose someone could say, "Oh, look, dude, why are you complaining? It's so realistic." Yes, real guns made out of steel do have wear and tear. But really, when you're using a Lego gun just for the fun of it, do you really want there to be issues? No. The only issue I really want to have is the gun's rubber bands, because that is easily rectifiable. If your gears are bent out of shape, you're going to have to go and buy new ones. Fortunately, that does happen rarely, and of course, it is easily solvable. Now, another issue is it can be quite overwhelming. You do have to get used to the rate of fire before you can really control it. It's something you have to get used to. Yes, it's all well and good that the gun is controllable, but it takes a lot of practice, and there is no semi-automatic mode, which is something I really do need to work on. Now, another problem is with the iron sights. They're kind of pathetic, really. Okay, they do work, but really, they only take up this little bit of space. Usually what you get is you get your front sights all the way down there, and your rear sight up at the back where it should be. There's no front or rear sight. It's all just rear sight, and it's not good, because the reason why you have a front and a rear sight is to help with that aim. And of course it can have a bit of problems because you can be skewed off a little bit, and you wouldn't really be able to notice too much wrong with the sights. Tip for aiming is pay attention for these two bits here. Those two bits are kind of in line with your shitty sights, then you're on a good roll, you're able to fire really well. If they're not, then you have a little bit of issue. And on to the final issue, attachments. Look at this gun. Do you see any room for attachments? No. There is absolutely no room where you can put attachment. You can put an extendable magazine, but is that really useful? The magazine does take up space, so you can't put on any tactical underbarrels. I suppose you could go for a slightly smoother grip, remove the studs, but hey, what's the point? I like it as it is. And of course, you can't really fit an optic unless you really want to get really fiddly. I suppose you can add a rail on, but one, you might spoil the look a little bit, and of course, you've got to fiddle on, take the thing off first, and then load the gun, then put the thing back on. I just won't bother with any of the attachments, I'm afraid. And that's a shame, because I like putting attachments on. It makes the gun unique, and it's one thing that's kind of annoying me with this gun. Apart from that, it's really splendid. I recommend all of them. Okay, this gun may be pretty awesome, but is it consistent? It's now time to find out with the precision test.
Now I think it's best if we just do one solo round. Of course, as per usual, we're going to fire 3 sets, and of course, we're going to set a target and the gun at the same point each time. So test number 1. Pass. Test number 2. Pass. And our third and final test. Pass. All 3 pass. In summary, I think this Lego gun is really awesome. And it kind of sounds a bit big-headed to say it, but I really do. The gun's performed really well in the range test. It's annihilated the vast majority of the targets in the accuracy test, and it's shown consistent performance in the precision test. Now, yeah, those are 3 good things, but there's also more. The presentation of the gun spot on, the gun is super ergonomic, super easy to use, and not to mention the magazine, which is just fun to reload and unload. It's quite satisfying to hear the sound, even though it's not required. So most of this gun space is all used. If not, it's used for something that's really nice and refreshing. And that is it for this episode of Accurate and Powerful Lego Guns. If you like the video, give it a like. If you want to see more, click the subscribe button. And of course, next time, we'll be having a look at this Lego crossbow. Oh yeah. Now, thank you for watching. And of course, keep building, everyone.